We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
We have lost the muscle of buying media. And in my case, I will admit, I no longer really have an easy way to play back physical media, but you don't have to just buy physical media. You can buy electronic media, and a lot of the times it's much cheaper than as a service offerings.
The two warring factions of diskettes are floppy disks and hard disks. I prefer these big ones because they hold more memory, although you have to fold them up to fit them into these new computers.
On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk new lighting options, streaming cancellations, and Hotel Marcel. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 421, Long-Term Games. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matty Scott, for AVNation.tv. And this week, we are pleased to be joined by the one and only Rachel Bradshaw. She's the VP of Account Services over at Caster Communications. How you doing, Rachel?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Matt.
Thanks for being here. We finally got you on. Last but not least, we have my good friend, Mr. Jeremy Glowacki. He's the executive editor of Residential Tech Today. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing well, Matt. And to say Rachel's not usually on is not true. Sometimes she's on. She's just lurking.
She's here.
I'm
She's
lurking.
Hiding in the background.
Serial lurker.
She lurks a lot.
Long-time lurker, first-time caller.
Beautiful. All right. We're going to kick this off with kind of two stories that we're going to combine into one. First, from CE Pro, Wax Aspire presents 4 experiences of light at Lightapalooza. The event down in Arizona featured all of their 4 different lines of downlights, as well as some of their brand new outdoor fixtures that are part of kind of the Aurora line with color changing for outdoors, which is really, really cool. As well as from Residential Tech Today, DMF Lighting launches Artifacts, an exclusive line for custom integrators. That Aspire line from WAC is also exclusive to integrators as well. But DMF Lighting with their new line is kind of a rebrand of their IX and DID series with modules for in-ceiling downlights, etc., as well as an Artifacts outdoor lighting system. So go read through both articles. It covers all the new jazz coming from both of those companies. Rachel, let me start with you on this. These are, in my opinion, 2 of the leading integrator-focused, design-focused lighting companies out there right now. They are doing some really, really cool things in the lighting space, but particularly for integrators without sacrificing the actual design light aspect of lighting, which is, we can very quickly get convoluted in this conversation because we talk lighting control as far as controlling fixtures, lighting design, which can also be control design, etc. I specifically want to talk about designing with light. And both of these companies have products that these articles are talking about that are designed for that. Do these 2 offerings, do they really give us a platform from which to create true lighting designs?
I look at this as an invitation. I think that these companies are really inviting the custom integrator into this discipline of lighting design, which as you know, we were talking before the call, Matt, you're a lighting guy. So this is an astonishingly complex discipline, as nuanced in its own way as, immersive audio design. There is so much to discover, so much complexity, and so much that can be achieved in terms of changing the look and feel of your home. integrators by nature and by nurture are the right kind of person to approach this sort of work, right? They're engineering minded, they're scientifically minded, but they're also attuned to aesthetic preference and creative expression. So I think that this set of offerings, to me, like, I'm basically a layperson here, and to me, this looks like a good sort of menu of options to help people begin not just exploring, but explaining and positioning the different kinds of lighting applications and effects that can be achieved within the home to the commercial integration customer, which is important. I think that I in my own life have experienced people just asking more questions about how to achieve lighting in their home that looks good, feels good, is useful for certain tasks. I think with the way that over just all of our lifetimes, like the basic consumer lighting market has changed, people are aware of the different qualities of light in ways that they didn't used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. And this is an excellent opportunity for integrators to put themselves in the position of being the advisor and the educator to their customer in this area of applications, just as they have been for everything from, display to sound to control throughout the home for the, history of the discipline.
Jeremy, this is that one topic that I try so hard not to totally frustrate everyone who listens. With the quality coming from DMF and WAC, and full disclosure, we use WAC in our company all the time. They're fantastic. But with the quality that's coming out of this, I remember when lighting first kind of came to our industry, and a lot of it was very like prototype quality level-ish. You had a hard time going to a customer and trying to justify the expense due to the quality of the fixtures that were coming in. Not necessarily literally the light, but the fixture itself, right? It was very rudimentary. With what these two companies are doing, have they elevated it to a point where we can come in as lighting designers, essentially, and compete with really anyone in the landscape when it comes to selling fixtures?
Yeah, I mean, I was privileged to be able to attend Lightapalooza this last week. So I was looking at these products up close again in the case of WAC, because I saw them at CEDIA and their display, which I was pleased at CEDIA because they were one of the first to sort of take that Lutron model and say, we need to demo this stuff and show you actually how these lights affect, the tunable lighting, how it affects the artwork on the walls, and just the color temperature in the room and all that. And, a few years ago, it was a bunch of pieces of lighting fixtures on a tabletop. And it's kind of not inspiring as an attendee to look at all that stuff and figure out how it's going to work. It's good to have your hands on it too, and there's all of that as well. But DMF, this was a big launch for them at the show. This was all brand new. And they're talking about build quality of their products, really making it a premium option for exclusively the CI channel. They're all in on the CI channel. They're full believers that this is their partner for this type of quality of product. And one of the things that they do is provide this installable trim that you mud up to the edge. And I believe it's called a level 5 finish. Is that?
Yeah, level 5 driver.
Yeah, and
trimless
and
lighting.
it's done in a way where it's got this little trough of some sort around it that makes it super easy to feather that in. I'm not going to attempt it myself. I barely could caulk a straight line on beat a caulk. But I would say for those who are doing this work, it looks brilliant in the way that they've designed this to simplify that process to make such a clean ceiling for these lights. And they're very tiny, pinpoint lights, and they're all about sort of setting it back so you don't have glare. You're lighting the room, not, creating glare. And I've just begun covering this, it feels like, a couple years ago, and I'm learning all the lingo and how to ask questions with these manufacturers. But then all of a sudden, right before Lightapalooza, something really interesting happened to me, which is that my last incandescent bulb was used out of my workshop.
End of an
Yeah,
era.
I've been holding on. Like, you have to like pry it from my cold dead hand, whatever that term is. Like, I really did not want to switch, and I literally can't buy any more bulbs. So now I'm looking at, do you replace the bulb? Do you replace the fixture? So I'm at Lightapalooza as a journalist and as a shopper, essentially. And so this stuff is really relevant to me all of a sudden. And I see how, at the high end, you can do things that are amazing, and especially new build when you're just putting in the ceiling and finishing out. But there's also a lot of retrofit options. And I agree that, what Rachel said, that this industry is the right fit for that. The typical, electrician is used to doing 4 cans and a fan, is what they say. That's the lingo. And this is a lot more sophisticated than that. But a funny thing also happened, which is, I'm on panels and we're talking before we speak publicly, and one of the integrators is like, "This is great. I love all of the attention that our industry is getting for this, but the last thing we want to do is have a bunch of people just jump in and throw it all out there and say, I'm selling it all now, I'm installing it all." It's like, you need to slow down, take your time, get in this the right way, learn one skill before you move on to the next one. Don't try to do it all at once. So as much as our industry is really promoting this as the next really great opportunity, everyone needs to get educated and do it the right way, so that we don't get a black eye as in the process of, so many control systems going in the early days, and to this day, not being programmed properly, not being set up properly for just audio, or lighting control, whatever it is. And you have these companies coming in and fixing people's mistakes. So let's not do that with lighting. Let's get it right from the start. We've got an opportunity here to do something really, really great. And it isn't easy. You've got to learn and develop your skills. So a lot of great messages at Lightapalooza. It's a really, really great event.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on AVNation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.
There. All right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from CE Pro. Streaming consumers are willing to cancel due to rising costs and password crackdowns. If somehow you've been living under a rock and didn't realize that your mom, your sister, and your brother can no longer share your Netflix password, they can't. As well as most of the other platforms are finding ways to deal with this as well. Data from a Forbes home and online poll of Americans found that 95% of Americans are now paying for more than one streaming service, which is up from 86% who reported that in 2023. Jeremy, let me start with you on this. Are we to the point where the promise of streaming to replace cable and be more effective and more accessible, et cetera, has literally just turned into cable?
I don't think we're there yet. I do think that cable is still, it's still more expensive to do cable. And plus, you do cable, you're still going to have at least a couple of streaming services. You're probably going to have Netflix. Everyone seems to have Netflix, other than those who just decided they were mad that they couldn't share passwords and got rid of it. And it's come and gone, it's up and down in terms of what their content is. I went months without even going to Netflix because I just didn't think there was anything to watch there. A lot of people have Prime because they've got Prime accounts, and so you that's kind of a throw in because you're already paying for Prime. You're getting the video streaming kind of as part of that. But I think if you cut the cord on cable, depending on who your fiber service is, your internet service provider is, I think you're still saving a bit. I was talking like I was saving about $100 a month for a while there when I first switched over. And I did slowly add some services. Somehow I get one that I didn't even sign up for, and I can't figure out how to unsubscribe, and I can't figure out how to log into it. Yes, that's Paramount. So there are those weird like renegade ones that I didn't want in the first place, and I have them. And there are times when I want to just sort of streamline. I have conversations with a friend of mine, and he likes to throw around, hey, have you seen this show? And the latest one was Loudermilk on Netflix, and I'd never even heard of it. And it's 3 seasons in. I'm sort of binge watching it, and it's pretty fun show. And then, he throws out another one, and I don't remember what it was because he said it was on Peacock, and I'm like, well, that ain't gonna happen because I don't have that one, and I'm not adding it. I refuse. I put my foot down on that. It's like the one I don't have. And so I think one of the things that happens is you think that you're being so thrifty and, trimming budgets and things like that, and then you find out there's this one NFL game that's going to be on this. And I guess it was Peacock last year, and I didn't fall for it. But it's going to happen, Prime, obviously, for a lot of people, like, wait, how do we even get to that game? And it's like, well, you have Prime, you just don't use it that often, maybe. But I do think it's still, to answer the question in a long-winded way, it's still a tad bit more affordable than cable. There are going to be old timers like my aunt and uncle who just like to, channel surf. They're not comfortable with the menu structure going in and out of apps, and they're just going to pay the premium no matter what. But I think for most of it's a better value just to piece it together with your apps and figure out a good fiber option.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Rachel, you and I both have young kids. Not to say that Jeremy's kids they're not as young as our kids, let's put it that way. I seem to have, other than Disney Plus, oddly enough, I seem to have like every streaming service you can purchase in Canada, it seems. And half of them I don't ever use, but we keep them for one show that one of the kids likes.
Yep.
Is it the confusion that causes this? Is it the exclusivity that's causing this? Are people, how many people are actually signing up for something because they want to watch one show?
Oh, I do that all the time. I think that that's quite common, but I think that, this was a topic at CEDIA. I think 2 years ago it was the topic, the keynote, that the industry really needs, or consumers actually quite need, something to be like a unified platform for all of these different devices that can help them. A universal search that can help them figure out what to watch, what it's on, what it'll cost them, et cetera. And I actually think that much like with consumer home automation, there are some like hyperscaler platforms who are looking at this and want to be the ones, Amazon, for instance, makes it pretty easy to get all of your subscriptions to HBO Max, Hulu, Paramount Plus, whatever, through Amazon, so that it's all searchable through Prime, so that you can just be in Prime and not have to leave and get access to all of your content through one portal, one search, etc. And if you're willing to do that, then that does sort of simplify things for you and make it easier to track your costs, track your subscriptions, and shut them down when you don't want them anymore. But there's always the one, right? Like, you're always going to be leaving the experience to go watch something on Apple TV or Netflix. So it actually is quite analogous to consumer home automation in that way. You're always going to have that one, Sonos app that you have to keep on your phone. You can never quite get rid of. I have 4 streaming services currently, which is pretty tragic. I too have Paramount Plus, Jeremy, and not because I couldn't figure out to cancel it, but because I really like Star Trek.
Nerd.
Yeah. So yes, I have Paramount, I have Disney, I have Prime, or I have Peacock, which we only have so that my kids can watch Psych, Disney Plus, and Netflix. Oh gosh, that's 5, you guys. 5. But what I ought to do, and what I know I ought to do, because this has been my behavior in the past, is I ought to cancel Peacock because I only use it for one show and just buy it. We have lost the muscle of buying media. Mm-hmm. And in my case, like, I will admit, I no longer really have an easy way to play back physical media, but you don't have to just buy physical media. You can buy electronic media, and a lot of the times it's much cheaper than as-a-service offerings. And, these as-a-service offerings are very ephemeral. Like, whole shows just disappear from the internet all the time. So if you're passionate about something, you should own it. That's as true for video media as it is for any other kind of media. And I feel like we've sort of forgotten it because all of these platforms have incentivized us to forget it. But as they get more promiscuous with sending content off, their exclusive content to other platforms where you have to get a new subscription to access it, or getting rid of their exclusive content as a tax write-up, I think they're going to retrain us to start buying media again.
Yeah, that's a great point. And when the network goes down, you can still watch something, which is
that's right.
Fantastic. All right, let's change topics one last time. This comes to us from Residential Systems, POE Shades, and the first zero emissions hotel. Power Shades helps Hotel Marcel in New Haven, Connecticut, set a new standard for sustainability. This is a iconic building in New Haven. It's one of the old school kind of brutalistic masterpieces, which I'm not a fan of brutalistic, but I get it. It is very, very cool. And as I said, iconic, but they have fully gone to make this the nation's first zero emissions hotel. And one aspect of doing that was utilizing Power Shades and their PoE devices to do all the things that we use when we were trying to sell shades to a customer, as far as ease of use, saving time, saving money, saving heating and air conditioning costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Rachel, let me start with you on this. This is almost a little surprising to me because we do not see motorized shades even in a lot of the luxury hotels. It's still just not a thing. I don't know if that's based on reliability or usability or complexity, but outside of, some premium hotels that are usually bespoke and some properties in Vegas, it's just not that big of a thing yet. No matter which brand you're talking, because there are a lot of super luxe brands that they just haven't gone down this vein yet. What is so intriguing about this application and the usage of motorized shades?
What I find intriguing about this application is that it's a cool shade story, no pun intended, but it's a much cooler whole building story. I read a study recently from the American Council for an energy efficient economy. There we go. That found that a discrete system like automated shades can save 5% of a commercial building's energy usage. But if that is part of a whole building system that has automated shades, centrally controlled zoned HVAC, energy monitoring and management, et cetera, then your energy savings jump up to the order of 30 to 40%, which allows you to do what they've done here and achieve a net zero building that's entirely electric and powered by solar. That, I think as human beings generally, we are quite bad at incurring an acute short-term cost in order to attain a large long-term gain. Doing these motorized shade installations is expensive initially. It's a lot of labor. You have to learn a new way of doing things. Not just you, but your staff. They're used to going around and closing all of those shades. Like you get that labor savings initially, but there's a pain to overcome at the beginning. And I think that you need that ROI to be pretty dramatic in order for all that short-term pain to be worth it. And in the case of the Hotel Marcel, because they did take this whole net zero approach where they retrofit the entire building to achieve these pretty lofty sustainability goals, they are going to get financial returns on that investment that they would never be able to achieve with piecemeal systems, no matter how cool they were.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jeremy, oddly enough, kind of in vein with what Rachel said, the quote that I pulled out of this story that I found the most fascinating was the fact that, likely their housekeeping labor savings from not having to go around room to room and either raise or lower shades has paid for the initial cost of going from manual to automated shades. The hotel's been open for a little over a year, if I'm reading that correctly. Obviously, that's specific to a hotel. But as someone who sells shades, the pushback we always get is, as Rachel said, they're really expensive. To which we always come back with, right, we understand, but you're going to save in electricity. You're going to save in because your shades will be at the proper position at the proper time for all of those effects. This right here shows it in a large scale commercial environment where you wouldn't think that they're going to spend a lot of time because they're right there anyways, but they're quoting saying that this is going to do it. Is it case studies like this that will really help move the ball on energy efficient design?
I think it helps make the case for sure. And, that example that you said with the labor savings, you both mentioned that it sounds ridiculous and, just passing, like, how could that be? But they said some of the corner suites have as many as 11 windows. And if you're in the housekeeping staff and you're going around and resetting all of that manually, when you really need to be there getting the room turned over for the next guest, I could see where they could really make the case for that. You just push a button and it all resets. You're there, and now you just get the linens going. I could see that on the labor saving, and then in terms of the energy and all that. I mean, I've lived with it. I went forever waiting for the opportunity to get motorized shades in my house, and now the majority of my windows are now motorized, and I know it's more of a hassle, convenience, removal thing where I can go just do my regular thing, not have to worry about it's now 5:00 on a winter night and our house is completely open to the outside world with lights on, and it just seems like you're completely in an aquarium, and that was a time when you started going, okay, now I've got to go around upstairs and around every room, and my daughter's room's closed and I got to get in there, and who knows what I'm going to find in there, teenagers, and so, it's just now automatic. And in the morning, getting up and getting that energy boost, literally physically from the light coming in at a set time. And in the summer, the big one, our house is fairly well insulated, but the windows are older. The upstairs gets super hot. I don't have a second zone in my AC. And in the summer, I've got it set to close at 12 noon. Everything just goes blackout upstairs because no one's up there. And it's unbelievable just the ambient temperature that you get, from reduction from that in the summer. I mean, I'd argue it's 5 to 10 degrees difference, and that adds up through the day. And by the time you go to bed at night, it's still damn hot, and you just want it to go away, and you can't get rid of it because it's just so warm up there. So now that kind of thing is a great, just little example. I think if you have actual numbers, like some of the stats that you're citing, Rachel, that really adds to the conversation. And folks, just from a comfort standpoint, giving those anecdotes, I think could be very helpful. So those who who really are looking for convenience and savings, it's a no-brainer in that category, I feel.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let's leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, learn more about residential tech today, find your podcast, where can they do that?
Best place to go is restechtoday.com, and you can check out the podcast there. We are typically weekly with our interviews there, and you can subscribe. YouTube seems to be popular with folks, but Apple as well. And, find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect personally.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Rachel, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Caster Communications, where can they do that?
The best place to find us is at castercom.com. You can find our blog. You can also find us across socials at castercom, and you can find me on LinkedIn and across socials as @TimPurity.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter or X or any of the other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.